And of course, on the other side of the coin, the ones that don't need to hear that you want things to move in this direction. It's grassroots organizations such as yourselves that are key to this thing, really key. And that's why tomorrow I'm going to Atlantic City and I'm going to talk to the Atlantic City Rotary. And that's one of the things that we do. We go around to small organizations because that's where the power is. A week ago I was down at the University of Maryland talking to the students at the University of Maryland. Let me tell you something. Are you familiar with the organization at the college level called SSDP? Students for Sensible Drug Policies. They have chapters all across the country. And they are going to be a force to reckon with. Because first of all, they are going to be our leaders in the future. And in just a couple of years, they will be moving on to their places of employment. Many are getting into criminal justice. Many are becoming attorneys. And they're growing. I get calls from new chapters all the time. We're forming a chapter at this community college. We're forming a chapter down here at the University of Virginia. We're forming a chapter here. And just like with your group, we have teenagers that are forming organizations. That's where the work is going to really get done. And that's where, reach out to your representatives and so on, but the snowball is rolling down the hill. And I really think that we're going to start, I think it's going to move rather quickly. And when I say quickly, I'm saying quickly in relation to, we've been at this for 38 years, since Nixon. And so when I mean quickly, I think between now and, say within the next 5 years, you're going to see some drastic changes. Drastic changes, especially after, I think you hear the president talking about some issues. I think when he gets through that first term, and realize that now he's into a second term, if he makes it into the second term, that I think you're going to see some sweeping changes. One of the things that I noticed, because he listens to the folks in our universities and our colleges across the country, and right now they're saying, enough of this. Enough of this. We want to really fix things. And they're going to fix things. These young people, they're going to fix things. What would that be? Generation, how old are you?
Double X.
14. Okay, you're going to be after that generation, I guess. Kind of what it is. Y. I think it's Generation Y, actually. Yeah.
And we're starting to see a pattern. It's not just at the grassroots level, but it's also at the state level. State legislators are now starting to look at these issues and say, time out, folks. We've got a 10th Amendment right to state sovereignty. And I think that we're going to, and I think we really need to attack it at that level as well, like you were saying, the local level. But we could very easily start to push the federal government back into its place where it belongs.
Yep.
So we need to take back our monetary system. We need to take the money away from them, between the central bankers and the politicians creating all these programs. And my wife is from Colombia. I visit Colombia once or twice a year. We have decimated that country. I mean, it is one of the most beautiful countries on the face of the earth, but yet, the gap between the poor, the rich and the poor is just unbelievable.
That's it, what you just said. And you will hear these ones that are in support of what we are currently doing. Oh, we're just stepping up a couple notches. How can you, when you look at a country like Colombia and see what has happened to it? You know what would happen if you step it up a couple notches?
Push fast forward. What they're doing. That's what you do.
And it really makes, it makes me sick to my stomach knowing what we can do. I'm just going to put my cards up here so I don't forget. But I don't know, folks. I really appreciate your support. Well, yes.
Real quick, in the enormous sums of cash that we've been spending on this war on drugs, the law enforcement officials, is their worth, how they justify the money that they're getting, is that determined by the number of arrests or the number of convictions?
actually conglomerate of all the numbers. You know, the FBI keeps statistics on all the arrests and convictions that are made. Every police agency pretty much fills out these sheets, and I think they're still doing it by hand, every month that they send it to the FBI. And it breaks down all the different types of arrests, you know, drug arrests, juvenile arrests, certain levels, you know, and all that stuff. It's called UCR reporting, Unified Crime Reporting System that they have. And, you know, it's those numbers. I mean, everything from arrests to drug seizures to a whole bunch of different numbers are thrown into the mix, and then grants become available. All types of money become available for law enforcement agencies. And when you're faced with such a huge problem, and I put it this way, the country, we've always had a drug problem. We've always had a drug problem in this country, and not a small one. It's always been big. It's big back then, it's big now, it's going to be big. But what we did, we now created an entirely separate huge problem with prohibition. So, a whole huge. So now we take all of this money, all of this funding, all our tax-paying dollars, and focus primarily on the criminal aspect, because our policies have made this a criminal issue. All the attention, all the energy, all the money, all the focus is taken away from our drug issue. And that's just left over here to kind of like meander, do its own thing. You know, if it gets a little bit thrown its way, some crumbs, okay, so be it. And every once in a while they do, because enough little groups scream, you know, we need more in treatment, and okay, don't over dollars, you know, but just keep pumping it into the machine over here, which is a drug war. If we can get rid of this, if we change our policies and get rid of that, we can take our focus back to where it needs to be and really solve the root issues. That's really what this thing is all about. To focus on what needs to be focused upon, and that is our drug problem in this country. When you say drug problem in this country, 90% of the people think about illegal drugs. But you know what else we can solve if we have the money, the effort, and the time to put over here in our drug problem? We can solve our prescription drug problem, you know, with Pfizer and all the folks. That's bigger than anything you can imagine as far as an issue in this country. Prescription drugs. All the so-called legal stuff. People don't think of that. I mean, there's more people addicted to prescription drugs than that will ever be addicted to the illegal stuff.
Could you, I was wondering if you have time to just review, I guess, your vision of how drug regulation would work. And in addition to that, like, once those substances are regulated, if they're regulated by a government agency, how we can avoid or take precaution from, you know, allowing them too much control over the regulation that they have, so that we essentially kind of switch but potentially perpetuate the situation we're in.
There are a couple of different models out there. And let me first say that we don't have a model. We're not into that. We're into ending what currently exists and bringing the proper attention to it so that Congress and all the powers that be move in the direction that they need to move in. What we say needs to happen is Congress needs to bring all the right people to the table. Okay? From law enforcement, we're here and we're ready and willing and able. But you have the medical profession, you have juvenile justice, you have social services, you have economics. And we're not, believe me, you look at my checkbook and you'll see that I'm no expert in economics. So we try not to really get into that because we don't have the expertise to really figure this thing out.
Sure.
And we wouldn't even want to try. But from my personal perspective, just there are a couple key things. I don't have the whole thing, but there are a couple key things. Of course, you don't advertise this, and just take marijuana, for instance, as an example. Okay, say it's legal tomorrow. No, we don't advertise it.